This is, we kind of refer to it as the marketecture at a very high level, like what is Gluware? And I turned on my pen so I can kind of keep some focus here for you. Gluware is in this middle box here, which is built on basically the intelligent orchestration engine and a suite of applications that are delivered for turnkey automation. So when you're using Gluware and the application suite, it is really a no-code platform. You're not required to learn any programming language or really any data modeling. You don't have to learn any of that. The applications deliver that for you, and we're going to talk about what each of the apps bring. What you do need to still kind of code or build, if you want to call it coding, it's not really coding, is the configuration policy. So whatever you are trying to automate, you do bring that to Gluware, you onboard it, or you define it in Gluware as your intended policy, and then Gluware automates it. So you're kind of bringing your operational policies, your configuration policies, the compliance requirements you have, and those things are integrated into Gluware and then automated. In terms of what we automate, when you think of the customer network, I talked about it a little bit already, but we're at 30 plus operating systems. We automate the traditional network being CLI driven of routers, switches, load balancers, firewalls, WAN optimizers, wireless LAN controllers, and more, as well as API endpoints, be it SD-WAN controllers like Cisco SD-WAN or Meraki, or API endpoints that are public cloud oriented. Now, when you think about how Gluware is delivered, as I said, it's pure software, and it is software as a service, but it is delivered in two different ways. Gluware Pro is our SaaS offering hosted in AWS. It's geared for medium to large customers, up to 2,000 devices that you're managing. And we administrate it. You install Gluware Secure Gateway on your prem, and it's all operated from the cloud. The other offering we have is called Gluware Enterprise, and we kind of refer to it as Gluware Your Way. But in general, we're delivering Gluware Enterprise typically as a set of virtual machines that you deploy into your environment. Those virtual machines become your primary orchestration server, your backup orchestration server, as well as leverage our multi-engine architecture that enable you to deploy zone engine servers out closer to groups of nodes for distributed performance. So those zone engines are how we scale, and we will talk about that a little bit going forward as well. So Gluware is very flexible in how we're deployed and is scalable to tens of thousands of devices. We have not actually hit an upper limit on scale at this point, and we continue to expand and deliver on networks in the tens of thousands of counts. So let's take a little bit more detailed run through the applications and kind of how you get started with Gluware, or the use cases that you achieve with each application. So as I mentioned, dashboards. Dashboards, a new framework introduced in Gluware 4.0, so the end of 2020. Very powerful way to visualize your underlying information. And it's action-oriented, meaning anything that's being visualized, you can click on it and navigate into the UI and take action. So if you see a failed audit in a dashboard, you can click on it and see exactly the details. If you see devices that were undiscoverable, you can click on them and it'll navigate you into Device Manager to figure out what happened. So very powerful insight, and provides that visualization for reporting and communication, and as I was mentioning, the navigation into Gluware. The new application introduced in Gluware 4.1 is called Data Explorer. This gives you the full ability to take underlying data from Gluware in the databases, use our template editor, and fully build custom reports. It has an integrated real-time report viewer to render that data and see it in real time and make decisions. You then can also schedule your various reports, and once the templates are created, not only can you generate the reports out of data directly from Data Explorer, but those templates are available in the other applications that I'm going to go through as we move on here. So Data Explorer is really key for those data-driven insights and reporting outside of Gluware. Device Manager is usually one of the starting places within the Gluware app suite. This is where you're performing that onboarding, that network discovery, that ingesting of the underlying infrastructure. Again, with 30 plus operating systems, we are able to interrogate these devices. We don't require SNMP. We have a library, a discovery library. We're interrogating to a deep degree, even pulling operational state and other information now. So you get that real-time inventory that you are then able to do actually a lot of powerful analysis with. You can look and understand how many operating system versions you have deployed. You can search across all your config files if you're trying to find an IP address. You can perform ad hoc queries and look at, can query the config, or you can even query the operational state through Device Manager. Moving on, usually the next step in application suite is using our config drift and audit application. Drift gives you the ability to monitor config change. You can schedule this, or you can trigger it with syslog integration. So if we get a syslog message indicating that someone has gone into config mode, we can trigger a drift, and then through the app you can see exactly what has changed, who and when. We also have a powerful audit engine. In the audit engine, it's code free. All you need is your CLI and some regex, and you can build very powerful audits to look for required configuration or forbidden configuration. And this is used across standards-based audits like PCI and HIPAA and NIST, as well as company policy-based audits or even ad hoc audits. If you find out like a specific vulnerability is caused by a specific configuration, you can search across all your devices for that configuration to see if you are exposed to that vulnerability. OS Manager gives you the ability to plan and schedule and execute operating system upgrades, patches, and even your primary image or ROM-mon image and more. So it kind of takes the hassle and the pain out of that kind of traditionally painful process of executing operating system upgrades. And it's really key to have this in your arsenal as you're faced with additional vendor vulnerabilities that are coming out, forcing you into more upgrades than you would like. You need to be able to automate this process and roll out upgrades reliably when you are faced with those vulnerabilities in the network. Config modeling, we kind of refer to it as our superpower. It's really the key differentiator of Gluware in terms of things that no one else can really do in the industry, in that we are able to deconstruct a monolithic CLI config file and break it up into individual features that are ultimately defined in data models within our platform. The user doesn't have to know it. As long as you understand the configuration that you want across various features like SNMP or AAA or QoS, you define it in Gluware as a policy. Behind the scenes, Gluware is wrapping it in data modeling and is able to intelligently and in a declarative and idempotent way provision it down to the network layers extremely reliably. So you can automate as much of the configuration or as little as you want. Oftentimes our users start with things that are kind of hot or urgent, like moving to SNMP v3 or rolling out a new AAA policy, or implementing a new QoS policy as well. So the other piece I would mention with config modeling is we do have a powerful workflow called Intelligent Model Discovery. And with Intelligent Model Discovery, we're able to point Gluware at a reference device like a branch router or top of rack switch and actually ingest the entire configuration and dynamically create automation policy. So with that, you have the very powerful ability to automate network configurations. Workflows are where you're kind of getting more into process automation, so things that take multiple steps, either in design or operation or troubleshooting or certain planning steps, can be fully automated into a workflow. Workflows are also sometimes where API integrations take place to interface with an IPAM or talk to a CMDB or open a ticket in ServiceNow, that sort of thing. And so with that, just to talk APIs, I mentioned already we have the Glue API, which is our published RESTful API. We also have a powerful ability to onboard any published API and make calls and interact with those. So I mentioned things like ServiceNow or Remedy or even Ansible, and we have modules for Ansible as well, where if you're doing simple automation with Ansible, you can programmatically trigger Gluware to look at an audit or a drift or other components where Gluware can be complementary to some basic changes with Ansible.